it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a recommendation style video, which are always some of my favorites to put together, but specifically I'm going to be chatting through happy books. Books that you will read that will put a smile on your face. I have books across mainly two different genres here to talk about, which are my personal kind of go-to when I'm looking to just feel, I don't know, inspired and happy and charmed by the characters in a fictional story. Because sometimes you just need a good old-fashioned fictional hug to put a smile on your face. So today I do have a collection of books that I personally think will make you really happy when you read them. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So for me, when I think about happy books, they generally fall into two categories. I have the sugar cookie rom-com romance story that has friendship and romance and two characters that you just fall in love with and root for. They're charming, they're lighthearted, they're not too dramatic, and they're just like a great time. And in my opinion, all of them should be made into movies. And on the other side, I also have a bunch of adventure-focused fantasy, kind of quest stories following characters that are just trying to save the day, making friends along the way. Again, charming, lighthearted, and will put a smile on your face. So let's go ahead and dive into the actual books now, because I have quite the collection. First book I'm gonna recommend is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a recent read for me. It is one that I read in essentially 24 hours, could not put this book down, and I had a stupid smile plastered on my face the entire time because this is so charming of a story. But this essentially follows our main character, Chloe Brown, who is a chronically ill computer and gaming geek, and she essentially creates a list for herself to push herself outside of her comfort zone to get a life. The list consists of enjoy a drunken night out, ride a motorcycle, go camping, have a meaningless but thoroughly enjoyable hookup, travel the world, and do something bad. So at the beginning of the story, she has recently moved out of her parents' house to kind of strike up on her own in her own apartment. And essentially, after she moves in, she begins to have a complicated relationship with the superintendent of the building, Red, aka they basically hate each other, which obviously is the recipe for them to inevitably fall in love and have all of the great banter and romance that you would want in a story like this. It is just a book that, I'm not kidding, will make you laugh, it'll make you cry, but like in a good way, like from happiness. You just root for everyone. Just two characters inevitably loving themselves and allowing someone else to love them too, and it's just so sweet. Other great things about this story is I love Chloe as a main character. She is so independent. She works in a similar field as me, and I also, as a person, really relate to her desire to make lists to put herself outside of her comfort zone. This book also has disability rep, as Chloe has chronic pain. But yeah, you're gonna love Chloe, you're gonna love Red, you're gonna love the steamy moments, you're gonna love the laughable moments. Guaranteed you'll love this book. And personally, I'm gonna be reading a lot more books by this author because I hear exceptional things about all of them. So if you read this, good news, huge backlog of books by this author as well. Speaking of romance, the next book I'm gonna talk about is Edenbrooke. Now this is a book that I read when I kind of was going through my Regency romance period, and I feel like this is a perfect book that is one not long at all, another book you can quickly marathon, and is just so sweet. Similarly, kind of has this sort of hate, misunderstanding element at its core, but this is a Regency romance, so it has all the pomp and circumstance and manor houses and horseback rides and painting and fields that you would expect and want from a genre like this. This basically follows our main character, Marianne, who after the unexpected passing of her mother, she moves in with her aunt in Bath, and her sister moves in town. They're close, but they're very different from each other. But they decide to meet at this manor house because her sister is kind of chasing the Duke, Count, titled lord who owns the manor house. So she decides to go visit for the summer, get a change of scenery, enjoy the countryside, as she loves that because that's where she grew up. But she moves there, though she arrives about a couple of weeks before every other house guest, and she starts to have this sort of unexpected relationship with someone else who lives there. It begins a bunch of misunderstanding, complicated romance and relationships that will just melt your heart. I will say Edenbrooke is definitely very pure and innocent Regency romance. Get a Life, Chloe Brown is definitely steamy, and a lot of like books by Tessa Day are also much more on the steamy spectrum. Edenbrooke definitely sits much more in like the hand-holding, anxious stares from across the room, fingertips brushing as they're like passing the reins of horses. It's definitely much more wholesome, but in that breeds its own kind of special kind of tension that is just so good. If you love like a Jane Austen story, if you love just like a classic Regency romance tale, this is a great one to pick up. It's very entertaining. the misunderstanding will kill you in the heart, but also it's so sweet and I loved every second of it. From there, I would also really recommend Aru Shah and the End of Time by Roshni Chokshi. This is a super endearing middle grade adventure fantasy story that is centered around Hindu mythology. In this story, we follow our main character Aru Shah, who essentially in the beginning of the book unwittingly releases a demon called the Sleeper, which is determined to bring about the end of the world. She does it after she's kind of coaxed by her classmates, after she is kind of told a variety of lies to fit in. So trying to save face, she touches a magic lamp and it releases this demon out into the world. It freezes time and Aru now has to go on an adventure to try to save the day and prevent the world from ending. In the beginning of this adventure, she essentially also realizes that she is a reincarnation of one of the famous Pandavi brothers. With this realization, she realizes that she is a demigod and has access to, godlike powers, which she uses on her quest. She has a quest guide in the form of a pigeon. She also has a friend and fellow Pandavi reincarnation, Minnie, and together these two girls go on an adventure, solve a bunch of mysteries, encounter a bunch of puzzles. This book has so much charm, so much humor, such clever, modern interpretations of mythology, which I always love reading. If you like Percy Jackson, you're gonna love this. It has friendship, it has kind of overcoming your own insecurities, it's inspiring, it's just an endearing tale of a young girl trying to both save the world and accept herself at the same time, and you will love it. I loved it, it was great. And I really cannot emphasize how funny this book is as well. It was just truly a great time, and I would highly recommend it. Speaking of dashing adventures across the world, the next two books kind of fall into a similar category, and it's definitely a genre that I always look to read when I am looking for a bit of a pick-me-up. I just love an endearing story of friendship and romance while they're also going on this sort of quest-like background. I also really want to recommend the Jane series by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. There are currently 3 books out within this series so far. This one is My Plain Jane, which is a Jane Eyre retelling. There's also a historical retelling following a queen named Jane, and then the most recent one follows an outlaw named Jane. This is a super witty, breaking the fourth wall, kind of directly talking to us as a narrator, whimsical retelling of either famous literature or retelling historical figures and kind of twisting them in a new, hilarious, and magical way. These books are by no means true to the script at all, and definitely call that out in all of their descriptions. This is not a faithful retelling of history or literature in any capacity, but they're all incredibly fun. Overall, just an imaginative reinterpretation of stories and history that we know so well, and usually they have a sort of magical twist or a change of perspective in narrator, as is the case in My Plain Jane, which is not actually Jane, it's actually her best friend Charlotte. And it essentially allows you to encounter stories and historical moments from a new POV, and they're just a dashing good time. I have loved both of the books I've read, and Calamity Jane, which is the 3rd book, which recently came out, is on my personal TBR to read soon. These are just joyful. I love them so much. I think they're just so genius, and I just love when a narrator breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to the reader in a sort of flippant and hilarious way, and this just does that so well. Next contemporary book I have to recommend is When Dimple Met Rishi, and this is just an absolutely adorable YA rom-com contemporary story that will make you fall in love with everyone immediately. Another super fast read as well. This follows 2 main characters. One of them is Dimple. Dimple has it all figured out. She's recently graduated high school and she's about to attend a really competitive web developer summer camp that she's really excited about, and she's also honestly looking forward to get away from her mother, who is very focused on finding her an ideal Indian husband. We also follow Rishi, who is a hopeless romantic and was so jazzed when his parents told him that he should attend this web development summer camp to meet a girl that they think would be a perfect potential match for him. So these 2 characters unwittingly attend the same camp with very different expectations of wanting to know each other. Their paths, of course, collide in the most deliciously adorable way possible, and you inherently see 2 characters do begin to fall in love and begin to understand each other. This is a super charming romantic comedy full of ups and downs, kind of a love-to-hate scenario, as Dimple is completely not interested and Rishi is just so excited to be there and the sort of sugar cookie soft boy that you want in everything. And it's just a charming tale of tradition and modern family moments, and everything comes together in such a wonderfully hilarious way. And I mean, honestly, if you look at the back of this book, it's pretty much expresses it all. But yeah, I love this story so much. It's great. And I also love the web development setting. I know that's kind of an interesting thing to focus on, but I honestly just love reading about young people pursuing passion, especially in STEM, especially as a woman pursuing that in STEM. I think it's great. Separate to this as well. Great romance, but also a really cool academic setting as well. Last book I'm gonna recommend is The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery, which is a book I have loved for so long. It's honestly, hands down, is one of the most charming books I have ever read, and it's a story that has stuck with me for such a long time. I have felt connected to these fictional characters for 6 years, and I do not plan to let them go anytime soon. So that should hopefully be a bit of a sales pitch for you guys to pick this book up, because you're gonna love it, you're gonna love them, and it's gonna make you cry happy tears, I promise. So The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery is honestly a book that celebrates the idea of second chances and found family. Particularly, we follow our main character, A.J., who owns a bookstore. He is grouchy, he's not particularly interested in talking to anyone. He just wants to run his bookstore, he wants to read his books and honestly be left alone. But then one day, a child is left in his shop with a note basically saying to take care of this child. He decides to take this child in and raise it for himself. And from there, you begin to see this incredibly beautiful story of a family beginning to be formed right in the heart of a bookshop as its main setting, which is just amazing on so many different levels. You get to see the growth of AJ find this new form of love and allowing himself to actually open himself up to human connection. As the town begins to see a change kind of occur over AJ, he also begins to be open to other types of relationships, particularly with a woman named Amelia. Again, this is a book that will just steal your heart. It's full of characters you will fall in love with. It's full of beautiful relationships being formed right in front of your eyes, and again, a story that truly celebrates second chances and kind of just allowing yourself to open yourself up to the world again. It's amazing, and I promise will make you smile, will make you laugh, and will make you cry. So those are all of my happy book recommendations. Please let me know down below some books you would recommend to put a smile on anyone's face, as I would love to know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another video soon.